Well, welcome back to Better Living. I'm here with Teresa from the Ohio Department of Transportation. It finally happened. We talked about it when you were here last week or the week before. The weeks all kind of run together for me. I'm not sure when it was, but recently when you were here, we talked about how it hasn't snowed. The roads have been great. It's been fantastic. And then we jinxed ourselves, didn't we?
We did. We certainly did a good job. Well, we knew winter was coming,
yes.
And so now we are very busy, and we've had some really big challenges this past week. Anything from freezing rain, and now we're dealing with, as everybody knows, the cold temperatures and the wind. And that makes it tricky for how we do our jobs, but it's an infusion of art and science. And to look at how we do our work, what the weather is going to be, it's a very fine line. But I think so far that we have done a fantastic job of getting out there and using the right things on the roads at the right time.
Well, I saw several trucks this morning as I was coming into work, and as usual, I'm impressed that they're out there and they're going at it when I think, you know, they have to feel like it is just a waste of their time, because as soon as they're clearing something off, the wind is blowing. I travel on 24 a lot. The wind is just blowing it right back onto the road. And they have got to be sitting in those trucks thinking, why? Why am I bothering? Let's talk about that. You did talk about it being an art and science. What point does the salt not work and you have to go to liquid? Because as we've talked, it is bitterly cold out there right now. And at some point, that salt doesn't do any good, does it?
Well, we're looking at, generally, we use about 20 degrees. That's a line in which it still works, but it just takes a longer amount of time. And when you're talking about traffic and safety, you want it to work as quickly as possible. So what we've done in these storms and what we've been doing for the past several years is really looking at the science behind what goes into applying salt. And so we look at different liquids such as brine. We also use the beet heat, and that activates the salt quicker so that it works better on the roadways and melts things faster. So by using that, it can last longer on the roads, and it really helps the salt to become more active, stay on the ground because it is liquid form, so it doesn't bounce everywhere, so that by the time it hits, it comes out of our spinners, goes out onto the roadway, and then it begins to activate as soon as it starts hitting the road. And that's it's really been amazing, because we've looked at, you know, how do other DOTs, what practices did they use? And they've really found that these liquids have helped them in some of the Mountain West states. And so we've brought that back here to Northwest Ohio and worked with it over the past several years. And now we kind of look at each storm and say, okay, what chemical blend should we use today? And so that's what we're doing on the roads right now. And like I said, this week it's been amazing. Our men and women have worked very hard to keep our roads safe. And so.
Well, I'm a nervous Nellie when it comes to driving. One time I had an accident and it was on black ice, and so I am nervous, and I'm the one that everybody else is passing because I'm going super slow. But when I see wet on the ground, when I can tell the ground at least appears to be wet, I'm just going to assume it's black ice. But if you're telling me that they're putting liquid along with the salt on the ground, at what point do we think, or should we think, it's black ice, it's just wet? Is there a point we should make that decision?
You're good to be nervous. First of all, let's point that out. A lot of people are nervous on the roadways, especially when they know that it's ice and snow. In the case on Saturday, people weren't nervous. They thought the road was wet, and so they would just take off, treat the roads as they weren't. When you say, you know, when do you know what is what and how can you tell? You really can't. And that's where your job as a driver is to be safe, to be more concerned, and to slow down, because we might run into patches where you have blowing and drifting. Every mile of every roadway is going to be changing. How they treat in the different, you know, cities, municipalities is going to be different than the way ODOT treats. And so you really have to think of that when you're driving, that, hey, each stretch of road is going to be different. How can I be best prepared? And that's just simple, like you do, slow down.
What is it, you talked about using the beet heat and all those things. I would assume there are, but I mean, are there people that are working with technology even now that are looking, okay, what are we going to do in the future? I've noticed as they build new roads, as they do construction on roads, there sometimes are different textures that they're using. I assume that is because that will somehow make it safer when perhaps conditions change as roads expand and contract, or as it gets colder and keeps the ice from these are all things I'm guessing.
Right.
As a television person, I think that I know about roads and how to keep them safe. But there are people I'm guessing that are working all the time on technology and what they can do in the future.
Yeah, like I said, it's an art and it's a science. What you're talking about are the longitudinal grooves that we have out on a lot of the bridges. You'll notice that. So when we make a bridge, we'll make sure while we're in the concrete is curing to go over that bridge and make these grooves. What does that do? It whisks away the moisture so that there is less moisture on the bridge deck, therefore really helping when we go out there and treat. Obviously, you still have to be careful, but the less moisture, obviously the less slick it is going to be. So we take anything from engineering to the different chemical applications, the liquid applications, and kind of all combine it to make the streets safer. What they haven't invented yet is a magic wand to just take everything away. But until that happens, until weather forecasting can become more precise, you know, we're going to be out there, and that's our job, is to make those decisions to see what we need to do to keep the roads safe. So that's what we're working on. That's what we're going to continue to work on.
See, sometimes I am smarter than I think. I knew those grooves were for something.
They're for you and your safety and everyone else's safety.
Thank you, ODOT, for working for me. If somebody wants to check on road conditions before they leave, give them that information, how they can do that.
Yeah, if you're worried or nervous sitting at home and you want to see, oh, how are things going? What is it going to be like? Go to the our OGO website, ohgo.com, and they'll show you real-time traffic. You can look at the cameras and see what actually is going on for the conditions of the road. It's a great resource, and we recommend that you do that. If you see traffic's a little bit slower, then you know it's going to take you more time. You can plan for that too.
All right. Thanks so much. We'll see you again in a couple weeks. We'll be right back on Better Living.